Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be diving into the world of supply chains,
Okay.
specifically for companies that make those everyday products we all use, consumer packaged goods.
Right.
So get ready for a little behind-the-scenes look at how companies are using some pretty cutting-edge strategies to streamline their operations,
Hmm.
reduce costs, reduce their environmental impact, all the good stuff.
Yeah, it's a really exciting area right now.
Yeah.
A lot of innovation happening.
Our source material goes deep on some pretty incredible tech and strategies. But I think, to really get it, we should probably try to picture a real company dealing with this stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
Imagine like a company, let's call them Super Snacks.
Okay.
And Super Snacks makes snack bars.
Hmm.
Everybody loves those.
Everyone loves a good snack bar.
And they're growing like crazy.
Okay.
But their supply chain is starting to kind of feel the strain of all that success.
Oh, yeah. I've heard this story before.
Right.
Happens to the best of them.
Yeah, they're dealing with rising transportation costs, and they've got bottlenecks at their warehouses.
Yeah.
And, sometimes their customers are getting damaged goods.
Oh, no.
Not good, right?
Yeah, that's never a good sign.
So does this kind of sound familiar?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty common scenario, unfortunately.
Right.
And, it's interesting. What we're looking at here, this source suggests that a possible solution might lie in something as simple as pallet building.
Okay. Pallet building. So how we stack boxes.
Yeah.
How does that solve all these huge problems?
Well, just think about it. Every inch of wasted space on a truck, that means more trucks on the road, higher costs, you're using more fuel, bigger environmental footprint, all that.
Right.
Our source actually uses Procter Gamble as an example.
Oh, great.
A big consumer goods company.
Yeah.
They realize that even just making small improvements in their pallet building processes could have a big impact across their entire supply chain.
So they just started stacking boxes more neatly?
Well, not just neatly.
Yeah.
They actually went a step further and implemented what they call systemized load building in their distribution centers.
That's demise.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a system.
Yeah.
It's not just winging it.
Yeah, exactly. So they started using software,
Okay.
like this program called Auto02.
Auto 2.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
And this helps them create a standardized process for, how they build pallets and how they load those trucks.
So it's not just about being tidy.
Right.
It's about having a system that everyone follows.
Exactly. It's about consistency and repeatability.
But how does a computer program help in a real world messy warehouse?
Well, that's where what they call intelligent automation comes into play.
Intelligent automation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Auto02, it uses these really complex algorithms to figure out the absolute best way to fit everything onto a pallet and then into the truck.
It sounds like a giant 3D puzzle.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
It considers things like the dimensions of the product, weight limits, all that.
So it's not just about cramming as much as possible.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Safety is a big part of it, too.
Okay.
Make sure the load is stable.
Right.
So those snack bars or whatever it is, they arrive at the store in perfect condition.
Makes sense.
And that's where this term axle legality comes in.
Axle legality.
Yeah. It's this, it's all about making sure the weight is distributed evenly across the truck's axles.
Oh, okay. So it's like balancing a seesaw.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got to be balanced.
Right. Because if it's not, it could, cause accident.
Right, could tip over.
Yeah.
So it's all about safety and efficiency, kind of all rolled into one. I bet our fictional Super Snacks company, they could learn a thing or two from this.
I think so.
Imagine if their warehouse workers were using this software to build perfectly packed pallets.
Right.
And their trucks were hitting the road, with these optimal loads.
Yeah.
And their customers are getting their snack bars on time, and they're not all broken up.
Everyone wins.
Yeah, everybody's happy.
Yeah, and that's what's, really interesting about this.
Yeah.
The source breaks down how these small changes can actually connect back to those bigger supply chain priorities we talked about earlier.
Okay, I'm kind of curious about that. So, how does something as simple as pallet deeping impact, bigger issues like resilience or employee retention, which I know were things that Super Snacks was struggling with?
Okay. Well, so think about it.
Yeah.
If Super Snacks can put fewer trucks on the road because they're optimizing the way they pack them, they're less vulnerable to things like, transportation disruptions.
Okay, yeah. Fewer trucks, I guess that's fewer drivers, less fuel, less chance of something going wrong.
Right, exactly. That's what we mean by resilience.
Okay,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So happier truck drivers too, probably.
Oh,
I know I wouldn't want to be stuck driving extra hours because of, like, poorly packed pallets.
I don't think anyone would.
Yeah.
And when it comes to employee retention, imagine what it's like for those warehouse workers.
Right.
Instead of struggling with inefficient processes, dealing with damaged goods all the time, now they have this technology that makes their jobs so much easier.
Yeah. They're less likely to get hurt.
Exactly.
Less stress. They can actually, take pride in their work.
Right. They see that things are running more smoothly, and they know they had a part in that.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
It's amazing, like, how something as simple as, pallet building can have such a ripple effect.
Yeah.
It kind of touches everything,
Mm-hmm.
like the costs, the emissions, employee morale, customer satisfaction.
It all adds up. And that's why our source calls this, low-hanging fruit with massive potential.
Okay.
Because it seems so simple,
Yeah.
but the impact is huge.
Yeah, so it's a powerful strategy for sure.
Absolutely. But there's another side to this that I think is even more fascinating.
Oh, okay.
You see, a lot of companies, they just assume that they're already optimizing their shipments.
Right, if they have, like, any kind of load building system.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing.
Okay.
A lot of those traditional systems are really outdated and, they're very limited.
Okay. So what's the catch?
They might just focus on weight and cube goals.
Okay. So just cramming as much as possible into a truck.
Exactly. Yeah. And they might not be thinking about those other important factors like axle legality.
Right, right.
Or the possibility that the products could be damaged during shipping.
Oh, okay. So they're missing a big piece of the puzzle.
They are.
Yeah.
And I bet this is where, our Super Snacks company, they might be going wrong. They might think they're doing everything right. But because their system is outdated, it's actually costing them money.
Right.
Creating inefficiencies and even, risking safety.
Okay, yeah. They think they're doing well, but they're not.
Right. And that's why this idea of deployment load optimization is so important.
Deployment load optimization.
Yeah. It's going beyond those basic calculations and using software to create a detailed plan for how literally everything will be placed in the truck.
It's like having a 3D model of the truck, and the software is like placing every single box.
That's exactly what it's like.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
It's really cool technology.
And the software can even take into account, like, how fragile some products are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It knows which items need extra care.
Wow.
It'll make sure that, those delicate snack bars don't get crushed
Right.
by something heavy.
That makes sense.
It's thinking about everything.
So it's like having, like, a really smart logistics manager who's, like, back there figuring it all out.
Exactly.
I bet Super Snacks could, like, seriously increase, how much they're shipping on each truck
Oh, absolutely.
if they had a system like this.
Yeah, the source says you can see a 5-10% increase.
Wow. That's a lot.
It is. And when you think about the cost savings on transportation, less emissions, and just overall efficiency, it's huge.
Yeah, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about making things fit. It's about using technology to make, like, smarter decisions.
Exactly.
To get the most out of your supply chain.
It's about working smarter, not harder.
Right. But are there any, like, downsides to this?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, is it all, sunshine and rainbows?
Well, like with any new technology, there can be some challenges when you're trying to implement it and get everyone to adopt it. But before we jump into that, I want to talk about another area that I think Super Snacks could really improve on.
All right.
Imagine if they could predict those demand fluctuations more accurately.
Okay.
So they could plan their shipments in a way that really maximizes the efficiency of the carriers.
Okay.
And, avoid those last-minute scrambles to meet unexpected orders.
Oh, right. Like, when a big order comes in and they're not ready for it.
Exactly. And that's where the concept of smoothing comes in.
Smoothing. Okay, I like that word.
Yeah.
But I'm not really sure what it means.
Okay, so think about it.
Yeah.
Right now, Super Snacks, they're probably just planning based on what they need right now.
Right, reacting to each order.
Yeah, they're just reacting to orders as they come in. What if they could take a step back and look at, like, demand patterns over a longer period?
Okay, like over a month, you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they notice that some weeks are just always busier than others,
Right.
or that certain regions have these, like, predictable spikes in demand.
So instead of reacting, they could plan for it.
Exactly. They could get ahead of it.
Okay.
And that's where technology like level load can really help.
Level load.
Yeah. This is from Provision Eye.
Okay.
It's a software that basically looks at the entire supply chain.
Okay.
It takes in all this data, historical data, current orders, future demand projections to create a transportation plan that's going to minimize costs, make sure deliveries are on time.
Okay, so it's like a crystal ball that can see the future of snack bar demand.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
But how does this, like, smooth things out? I'm still not, like, fully getting that connection.
Okay, so imagine Super Snacks gets, this huge order
Yeah.
from a big retailer.
Good.
Right now, the way they're doing things, they probably have to scramble to find trucks. They might end up paying, like, premium rates for shipping because it's last minute.
Right.
But with level load, they could see that demand coming weeks in advance.
Okay, so they'd be ready.
Right. They could lock in better rates with carriers and make sure there's a smooth flow of product from their warehouses to the stores.
Okay, I see. It's about going from being reactive to being proactive.
Exactly.
Using data and tech to, like, anticipate the demand, use the resources better, create a more, like, predictable and efficient supply chain.
It's all about being prepared.
Right. But how does this, like, help with those internal problems that Super Snacks is dealing with?
Sure.
Like, the employee morale or the warehouse bottlenecks.
Well, think about those warehouse workers. Instead of always rushing to fulfill those last-minute orders, working in this crazy, chaotic environment,
Right.
they now have a clear plan.
Okay.
The work is steady.
Yeah.
They know things are running smoothly.
So they're happier.
Yeah. Way happier and more productive.
And probably fewer bottlenecks, too.
Exactly. Because there's a consistent flow of goods.
Right. Not just these, like, crazy peaks and valleys.
Yeah, no more fire drills.
I like that. Okay. So, wait. Does smoothing also help with, like, those transportation costs we talked about?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. It can actually help Super Snacks get better rates from their carriers.
How does that work?
Well, when you're always scrambling for those last-minute shipments, you're kind of at the mercy of whoever's available.
Right.
You're going to pay a premium for that.
Yeah.
But when you have those predictable shipments, you become like a preferred customer.
Oh, okay.
So you can negotiate better rates and get more reliable service.
So they save money, they improve their relationship with those carriers, and it creates a better, more stable workplace for the employees, all through smoothing.
Exactly.
It almost sounds too good to be true.
I know, it sounds amazing, but it really works.
Okay. So are there any examples of this, like, in the real world?
Oh, yeah. The source actually talks about a case study of a large consumer goods company.
Okay.
And through smoothing, they were able to reduce their deployment stock transfers by, get this, 85%.
Yeah.
85%. That's incredible.
It is. And just think about what that means for everyone involved. Fewer stock transfers, that means less stress, fewer early mornings, scrambling to manage those carrier tenders.
Yeah, they're probably doing cartwheels down at the warehouse.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
It's a huge improvement for everyone's work-life balance.
Okay, so I'm sold. Smoothing is it sounds like it can be a game changer for, any company that wants to boost efficiency,
And it can.
improve morale, and build a more, resilient supply chain.
It really is a game changer.
Okay. I want to hear about some real world examples of this in action, but maybe we should save that for later.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Because I'm kind of ready to dig into those details a little bit.
We'll dive into that next. We'll see how some companies have implemented these strategies, what kind of results they've seen, all that. Okay, sounds good. Stay with us. Welcome back. So before we jumped into smoothing, you mentioned some real-world examples of companies actually using these strategies.
Oh, yeah.
So, what kind of results are they seeing?
The results are really impressive. One example that I thought was particularly interesting was a large food and beverage company.
Okay.
They were dealing with, those rising transportation costs, pressure to be more environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
Sound familiar?
Oh, yeah. I feel like every company's feeling that these days.
Yeah. So they decided to, implement that same Auto O2 software that we talked about,
Okay.
focusing on optimizing their pallet building and their truck loading.
So they jumped on that pallet building bandwagon, just like our fictional super snacks company?
They did.
Okay. And what kind of impact did they actually see?
Well, they were able to reduce their truckloads by 10%.
10%. Man,
Yeah.
That's huge. I can only imagine what that did for their bottom line, especially with fuel costs being so high these days.
Oh, it was significant. Yeah.
They saw, big savings on fuel,
Right.
driver expenses, but the benefits went way beyond just saving money.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, their on-time delivery rates went up to 98%,
Wow.
which made their customers super happy, of course.
Okay, yeah, that's always good.
And customer complaints about damaged goods dropped by 75%.
75%. So they're saving money, they're making their customers happy, and they're, protecting their reputation.
Exactly. It's a win-win all around.
Yeah, it is. What's not to love?
Exactly. And remember that that pressure to be more sustainable, reduce their environmental impact.
Oh, yeah, right.
They actually saw a 12% reduction in their carbon emissions
Wow, that's impressive.
just by, making those changes to how they build pallets and load trucks.
Okay, so it's like a win-win-win.
It is.
That's really inspiring. It shows that, even small changes can have a ripple effect.
Absolutely.
Do you have any other examples that you think are kind of interesting? Oh, yeah. There's another one in here about a major retailer that was struggling with, warehouse inefficiency and employee turnover.
Oh, okay.
They had all these distribution centers,
Right.
and they were still doing a lot of those load building processes manually.
I can only imagine the bottlenecks, the errors, the frustration.
It was a mess.
Yeah, it sounds like a nightmare.
It was, and it was really impacting their business, so they decided to go ahead and implement a combination of optimized pallet building and load optimization using technology to, streamline things.
Okay, so they brought in the big guns.
They did.
And what happened?
The results were pretty remarkable.
Okay.
They saw a 15% increase in their warehouse throughput.
Okay, so that means they can move more products through their warehouses
Yeah.
with the same amount of resources.
Right, exactly. It's like their warehouse suddenly got bigger.
That's the dream. Did it help at all with their employee retention issues?
It did. The work became a lot more manageable, less stressful.
It's like night and day, going from that chaotic environment to something that's smooth and predictable.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. So employee satisfaction went up and their turnover rate decreased by 20%.
Wow. So it really shows that investing in technology that makes those employees' jobs easier is a smart move.
It is. It pays off in the long run.
Okay. I'm starting to think every company needs to give their supply chain a makeover.
I think a lot of them do.
Yeah. Yeah. But I kind of want to shift gears a little bit and talk more about the technology that makes all of this possible.
Right.
We've been mentioning Auto 2 and Level Load from Provision Eye.
Mm-hmm.
But what makes these systems different from those older ways of doing things?
Well, it all comes back to intelligent automation and having a more holistic view of the supply chain. Traditional systems, they tend to operate in silos.
Okay.
They focus on just one task at a time,
Right.
just pallet building or just truck loading.
Yeah. So it's like trying to solve a puzzle, but you're only looking at one piece at a time.
Exactly.
You need to see the whole picture to find the best solution.
That's a great analogy. What sets these newer systems apart is their ability to analyze massive amounts of data, taking into account all sorts of constraints.
Right.
They can actually optimize for multiple objectives at the same time.
Can you give me a real world example of how that plays out?
Sure. So let's go back to super snacks for a second.
Okay.
Imagine they're using level load to smooth out their transportation.
Right.
The system would be looking at all that historical data,
Mm-hmm.
current orders, even future demand projections,
Right.
to create a plan that minimizes costs and ensures those on-time deliveries.
So it's like having a super smart, logistics coordinator
Exactly.
working behind the scenes.
Yeah, constantly adjusting the plan based on, new information as it comes in.
That's pretty cool.
It is. And you know what else is great about these systems?
With that.
They're designed to be user-friendly,
Okay, good.
and they can integrate with the systems that companies are already using.
Oh, okay. So it's not like a huge IT headache to put these in place.
It's not plug and play, but it's designed to be as seamless as possible.
Okay.
And another benefit is that these systems, they give companies real-time visibility
Okay.
into their whole supply chain.
Okay.
So they can track shipments,
Mm-hmm.
monitor inventory,
Okay.
identify any potential bottlenecks.
Before they become like a huge problem.
Exactly.
It's about having like the information you need to make good decisions quickly.
That's it.
Okay, so we've covered, the benefits, the tech, all these great success stories.
Mhm.
But let's be real for a second. Are there any like downsides or challenges that, companies should kind of be aware of?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think like with any big change, there's always going to be some hurdles.
Sure.
One of them could be just the initial cost of the technology. These systems can be expensive.
Right.
So it might be, a big hurdle for smaller companies.
Right. Or companies that just don't have that much money in the budget.
Exactly.
But wouldn't, those cost savings and efficiency gains, like wouldn't that make up for those costs over time?
In most cases, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The return on investment can be really significant.
Right.
But I think it's important for companies to really think about their needs, choose the right system,
Right.
and make sure they have, a good plan to implement it.
So it's not like a one-size-fits-all kind of solution.
No, not at all. It's
Yeah.
really important to do your homework,
Right.
make sure it's the right fit.
Yeah.
Another potential challenge is, just managing the change.
Right.
You're going to have to adjust existing processes.
Right. Right.
And sometimes, people don't like change.
Right. Yeah. I've seen that.
Especially when it comes to their jobs.
Right. Right. It can be kind of scary.
Yeah, it can be. And that's why it's so important to involve employees from the very beginning.
Okay.
Give them the training they need.
Yeah.
Clearly explain the benefits of, doing things this new way.
So bring them along on the journey.
Exactly.
And make sure they're part of the solution.
Right. They need to feel like they're part of the process.
Yeah.
And one final thought.
Yeah.
Technology is only part of it.
Right. Right.
It's also about having the right people, the right processes, the right culture.
So you can't just buy like a fancy new system and expect everything to like magically be fixed.
Right. You have to create an environment where, people can use that technology effectively.
Right. And they're not afraid to, try new things and improve things.
That's exactly right.
Okay. So before we wrap things up entirely,
Mm-hmm.
we've talked a lot about like, the details of supply chain efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really interesting to me is that all this stuff, it goes beyond just numbers and spreadsheets.
It does.
We've seen how these strategies can, lead to a happier workforce.
Absolutely.
More engaged employees.
Yeah.
It's about like creating a workplace where people, feel valued.
Like they're contributing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just like, another cog in the machine.
Right.
And when those trucks roll out on time and those snack bars arrive, not all smashed up, it's a win for everyone.
Yeah, it is.
From the people working in the warehouse to, the people at home enjoying those snacks.
It's true. And those positive ripple effects, they don't stop there. They can impact the environment too.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's recap those key takeaways for our listeners.
Okay, sounds good.
Where do we even begin?
Well, I think the first thing to remember is that, pallet building and those customer load sizes, those are areas where you can really make a big impact.
Okay. Don't underestimate the power of a well-packed pallet.
Exactly. And, using technology like Auto O2 can help you, get the most out of that truck space.
Right.
Make sure those deliveries arrive in good condition. And ultimately, it's going to save companies money and help them reduce their environmental footprint.
It's kind of crazy how much waste there is just from not stacking those boxes the right way.
It is. And speaking of efficiency, let's not forget about deployment load optimization.
Yeah.
This is where companies can really, take things to the next level.
Okay, so how do they do that?
Well, it's about going beyond those basic calculations, using software to create a really optimized loading plan. Think about, those Tetris masters we were talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
That's essentially what this software does for truckloads.
Okay. And remember, don't just assume that you're already optimized because you've got, some kind of load building system in place.
Right.
A lot of those older systems, they just don't cut it anymore.
No, they don't.
They're missing some really important stuff, like, the axle legality or how the load is distributed. Are things going to get broken? And that leaves companies open to all sorts of problems.
Inefficiencies, safety risks, maybe even some compliance issues.
It's like, using a flip phone in the age of smartphones.
Yeah.
You might be able to make calls, but you're missing out on like a whole world of possibilities.
That's a great way to put it.
And last but not least, we've got to talk about that smoothing.
Yeah. Smoothing those deployment transportation flows.
This was like a really big aha moment for me.
I know, it's a powerful concept.
Just that whole idea of like moving from reacting to, planning ahead,
Right.
being proactive.
It's about taking control
Yeah.
instead of constantly putting out fires.
Yeah. And by like using that data,
Yeah.
anticipating that demand and making sure those goods are flowing smoothly, across the network, I think companies could just unlock a whole new level of like, efficiency and predictability
Absolutely.
and resilience.
It makes you so much more resilient.
Yeah. And I think back to that case study we talked about where, that company reduced their stock transfers by like 85%?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Just by implementing smoothing.
It's a huge impact.
Okay, so as we kind of, wrap up our deep dive into supply chain efficiency, we want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
Don't just let these ideas, fade away.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how you could apply them in your own world, even if you're not, directly involved in supply chain management.
Right.
Think about like the flow of information or, how resources are used, even just like the tasks in your own work.
Yeah.
Could you benefit from a little, smoothing?
Some optimization.
Could you use data to anticipate challenges, streamline processes, create a more efficient and honestly a more fulfilling work experience?
Those are some great questions to think about.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of supply chain efficiency.
Yeah, it was a good one.
We'll be back soon with another exploration of, cutting-edge ideas and those practical strategies.
Until then, keep learning, keep innovating, and keep pushing those boundaries.